Welcome to episode 34 of the Active Bariatric Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Tirapelli, bariatric sports dietitian. Today, I'm excited to chat with bariatric athlete and bodybuilder Ronica Thorp, also known as @VSG_twinboymom on Instagram. Ronica is 40 years young from Oklahoma. She is a fiancée, mom of twin boys, registered nurse, and now fitness enthusiast. She had a vertical sleeve gastrectomy on August 6, 2020 in Tijuana, Mexico. She is down 220 pounds from her highest weight and down 156 pounds since surgery. This surgery was a revision from a lap band that she had in her early 20s, and she was determined to have a better outcome from the surgery. She has fallen in love with weightlifting and just competed in her first bodybuilding competition last month, where she wore her lucky number 24 as her competitor number. Along Ronica's fitness journey, she has fallen in love with barre, bungee, and anything where she can move her body. She has tried many new things, and while not all have been for her, she will never say no and will always try something new. In fact, she is doing a mud run in October with her local bariatric community and looking forward to every second of it. Not only has fitness become a huge part of her life, she now gets to participate in all the activities with her boys. This was one big part of her why in the beginning, and now they get a more interactive mom. She plans to run with one of her sons a 5K next April together, and excited that these are the goals that she's able to create with them. Being able to run and play and practice their things with them have given her some of the best highlights over the last 3 years. Thanks so much for being here today. I'm so glad you're here, Ronica.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So let's dive in a little bit about just your bariatric journey in general. Like, why did you choose to have surgery?
My entire life, I've been overweight. It's been a struggle that has not ever been present. It's, something that was talked about at home my entire life. There were several times I was forced to get on the scale when I didn't want to. I had to stop playing sports at some point.
Yeah.
I grew up playing softball. I never quit that one, but I did have to quit basketball. I just couldn't keep up.
Sure.
So, in my early 20s, I sought out weight loss surgery, and at that point, lap band was the thing to have.
Right.
Now I know that I don't necessarily agree with that surgery, but that's kind of where I went. But I learned real quick how to manipulate my bands real quick. And I wasn't in this, mentally, I just wasn't where I should be to have that surgery. Not quite sure how I passed the psych eval, but I did. And I wasn't ready for it. So I continued to struggle, and my weight just continued to balloon. Sorry. When I graduated high school, I was probably about 200-ish, maybe 220. And then, by the time I was 30, I was over 300 pounds. So I got pregnant with my boys. I had lost some weight, and I think they were kind of a surprise. And I got down to right about 300 from probably about 340-ish. And I think that's kind of where, you're pregnant now.
Right. Surprise.
Yeah. And then after them, a lot of depression set in, a lot of anxiety set in, and I turned to my comfort, which was food. Mm-hmm. And when they were probably about 2 or maybe 1 or 2, I realized I needed to make a change. So I started researching things. Unfortunately, my insurance here in the States didn't cover weight loss surgery, and I knew that I needed a revision. Mm-hmm. So calling around locally, those prices were astronomical. And so I was just I got to figure something else out. So I found a company in Tijuana and started really researching. Being a nurse, you hear all those horror stories about what could happen out of state or out of country. Mm-hmm. But the more research I did, the more I was nope, I think this is what I want to do. And so, in August, or the pandemic hit, and that's kind of where I took advantage of things, being a nurse. Well, I can pick up a second job. I can pay for this surgery, and let's do it. And so for about 8 months, I was back and forth from Texas, which was about a 5-hour drive from where I live. And every other week I worked in Texas. Oh, wow. And during COVID, and just so I could come up with the funds to pay for the surgery. Mm-hmm. And then I flew to Mexico, and I was bound and determined. I was this is kind of my last shot. It's either do or die here, and I got to give it everything that I have. Sure. So I did, and I was just determined to not fail again. I was like, and I didn't tell a lot of people at first.
Yeah.
It was very much my inner circle knew, and that was kind of about it. Because I was like, people are going to say, well, she's had one of these before. She's just going to fail again. And that was
Right.
really at the back of my mind. And
Sure.
it's still there at times. So about 6 weeks post-op, whenever I was okay and told I was okay to start working out, I went to the gym, and I kind of haven't looked back since. So that's kind
I
of where
love
that
that.
started and
I
how
love
that
that.
evolved.
Yeah, no, I love that. It sounds like, when you had the lap band initially, you were young and I think that was kind of a common thing. I know when I first became a dietitian, there were a lot of lap bands going on at that point. And of course now, kind of moving away from that more towards the bypass and the sleeve option,
Right.
but I saw that a lot of times too. It was like, hey, once you kind of knew what foods could slide through, it just wasn't as effective of a surgery for folks and people just weren't having that good of success. But it sounds like by the time you were ready for your revision, you were mentally like ready and you were much in a better place, it sounds like.
100%. And I had a different why. And I think
Sure.
that's really kind of a lot of it. My
Yeah.
why was, I became a mom, and I became like, I got so much guilt. I was like, I can't run. I can't play with them. I can't do like, it was just and carrying around two babies all the time and
Right.
two car seats. And like, I was just worn out all the time. And I was like, I can't
Sure.
continue to do this. Like, they didn't ask for me to come into a situation like this. And I got to make a
Right.
change. I got to make a
Right.
change for them. And my why is different now, but they were a big part of my initial why. So
Oh, I love that. Well, so then you said that you started working out of the gym around 6 weeks. So you said that you played softball and you had done other sports and things like that. Had you ever done any like lifting or anything before coming into the surgery, or was that kind of new?
a little bit, like in high school, we did some off-season stuff,
Sure.
and like summer stuff, and part of that was lifting. So I was slightly familiar with the weight room. And then, whenever I was intermittently dieting and trying all these different things, because I've tried probably every fad diet that you can possibly imagine. I've worked a little bit with a personal trainer in the past, and so I was a little bit familiar. Now, I was not familiar with the free weight room. I Because that was not my jam. I'd go to the
Sure.
gym and I didn't look like everybody else. I weighed over 300 pounds, and that was just not my comfort place.
Right.
So I had to get more comfortable, and that just took time.
Yeah,
So it's kind of
absolutely.
gradually walking into that and stair stepping my way up into kind of where I am today.
Yeah.
So
So let's talk about that. So you did a bodybuilding competition last month, and I don't know if any of you guys are listening. Have you followed her on Instagram? She went through her whole journey of training for it, and that's what I've been following you this whole time. I know I'm like total Instagram stalker, but I was like, gosh, this is awesome. And tell me a little about what got you interested in doing bodybuilding competition. How'd it go? Give us the whole summary.
Well, so I throughout my like time in the gym, of course I'm following people on Instagram and like just
Yeah.
doing different things and watching different things. And I started watching a couple people preparing for Summer Shred, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what this is. And
Right.
so I really dove into it, and I was like, there's a transformation division. There's people that probably will look like me that walk that stage. And, after all my weight loss, there's people with all this excess skin. Like,
Sure.
those are the people who gave me the confidence to even be able to get to the point that I'm in today, because those people did that. And so I was like, I think I want to do that.
Sure.
Here I am. I've fallen in love with the gym. The gym is my happy place. I can tell you, can't even tell you how many times like I become frustrated at home. I look at my significant other. I'm like, I'm going to the gym. This is where I got to
That's it.
go. I got to get
Yep.
away. I got to go decompress.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I think I want to do this. And so I reached out to a couple of people who had competed and was like, tell me about this. Tell me more about it. Like, what do I need to do? How did you get started?
Yeah.
And one girl said, you need to get a coach and make sure that you can stick with a plan. That's like
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing. Because
Right.
if you can't stick with a plan, you're not going to be able to do this. And so I reached out to a former friend who had gotten her pro card,
Mm-hmm.
and we started working together a little bit. Turns out she was not the coach for me. And I feel like
Okay.
it's important to find the coach that is for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But we worked together for about 4 or 5 months, and she started increasing my carbs. And, at first I was so resistant. I was like,
Of course.
I can't do that. Like, I can't
Yeah.
eat that much. You want me to eat that much? Like, there's no way.
Right.
No way at all. And I was extremely, extremely resistant about that at first.
Yeah.
Like,
I
looking
bet.
back on it, I'm like, I like my carbs now.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, what was I thinking?
Right?
Someone's
But
telling me to eat carbs. Like, wait a minute.
but you know, it went against the grain of everything you had learned about weight loss
Yeah.
surgery and what you were supposed to do.
Of course.
So and that was also in my mind. I was like, I'm not eating all that. Like, I'm going to gain all my weight back that I've already
Right.
lost. And so that took a really long time to like get through my head that we
Yeah.
got to change the game, change the script. We got to,
Sure.
you know, stop eating as much fat that we're eating. We got to start eating more carbs, and we got to fuel differently.
Yeah.
And when I started finally kind of giving into that, I was like, I actually feel better in the gym. I actually am
Yeah.
stronger in the gym. I actually
Sure.
can do more in the gym.
Right. Right.
So, so yeah, we worked together for probably about 6 months. And then I
Okay.
was like, she was also my life coach now on that
Sure.
aspect. Oh my gosh,
Sure.
I grew so much. Like
Yeah.
like that was kind of where I learned to love my body, love my excess skin, love who I am and who I've become. So, but I probably for about 8 months or so, I worked on my own and just started doing things on my own and really focusing on flipping that script.
Yeah.
And I also started coaching a little bit in there as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I had a coach through who I was coaching through type of thing.
Okay. Got it.
And so we were setting macros and increasing carbs. Like I still had somebody in the background, just not as
Yeah.
hands-on as before.
Sure.
And then I reached out to Gianna, who is the coach that I picked and who walked me through this whole entire process. And I had been talking to her because she was one of the coaches of one of the girls that I had watched and
Sure.
was really interested in, who I had followed competing.
Yeah.
And so we talked here and there, and then I finally decided,
Took
okay,
the
let's
dive.
do this.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Let's do this.
And how many days a week did you train? Like typically in a week, how many days did you lift?
So we started in December. That's when I started prep.
Okay.
And I had a 6-day-a-week schedule.
Okay.
And that was pretty intense. I mean,
Yeah.
I work a lot and I had a 6-day-a-week schedule, and her workouts were about an hour, at least an hour and a half in the gym at minimum.
Wow. Sure.
And they're pretty intense.
And did you do like upper lower body split days? Like how did your workouts typically look?
She divided it up into muscle groups.
Okay.
And it wasn't kind of like a split. It was, she had like a 12 days. So basically 2 weeks. And then I rotated and did that whole thing again.
Got it.
So there might be a leg day. There might be a shoulder and chest day. There might be just a strict arm day, or there's just a strict back day. I never knew what was coming next, to be quite honest.
Sure.
We did legs about 2 days a week, and then all the other things in between.
Supporting groups. Yeah.
Right.
And like typically in a workout, like how many sets did you do per exercise, just for folks to understand kind of what it looked like?
It was about usually 4 sets apiece, but her reps were intense. They humbled me. I'll put it that way. She would write in 20 to 25 reps. And so you got to drop weight in order to hit those for 4 sets.
Yeah.
And I know there's one that she likes to do. It's a shoulder burnout, and it's lateral raises at 100. Oh, and it's 1 set of 100. So that really humbled me the very first time I did it. I grabbed a 3-pound weight.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can imagine. Jeez. Oh my gosh.
So by the end of that, I was doing 5 pounds at 100, but
there you go. Yeah.
So she did a lot of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I hear you saying number one was finding a coach that works with you, for you, that you get along with, because it's what you did about 6 months together, correct? You started prep step back in like December. So, I mean, you want to find someone, and based on what you said, you did some research, you reached out to people that you knew, and you were able to find Gianna, who was your coach. Just because I know I've had other folks kind of be like, how do I get into this? And it's just about kind of reaching out to your community and finding someone that, might be able to be a good coach that you connect with. Is that right?
Right. It 100% is. And I highly recommend anybody looking for a coach that you kind of interview a coach, you talk to them
Absolutely.
and you see, like, I knew picking a coach, I needed somebody who had worked with bariatric patients in the past.
Yeah.
And the reason being, because I needed somebody who knew that I was probably going to fall off at some point,
Sure.
and that I didn't want to hide the fact that, hey, I just had a binge this week,
Right.
or, hey, I fell off this day. I could always come to her, and I never got chastised. Yes, I got coached through it, and
Sure.
she was hard on me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was never chastised. I was never
Yeah.
made to feel less of,
Yeah.
essentially. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And let's talk a little bit about the nutrition. So how did the nutrition change? So before you, like, let's just say before December versus once you started, getting into that prep and that training mode, how did your nutrition change over time?
um, so I went from about 70-ish fats a day,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, to a lean. We were a lean prep the entire time. I went to 50
Okay.
grams of fat a day, and I was
Okay.
50 grams of fat a day from December to July.
Okay.
And that was a big change. I like the fats that I get.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
um,
And they
and
play an
so
important role. Yeah.
yeah, and that was really probably the biggest, like, boom, like, oh my gosh, we got to change all of this. All
Yeah.
your meats that you have to pick are a little bit
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Everything that you're doing is different. Also,
Mm-hmm.
my carbs went to 204 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
And that's
I love that you say that, because think about it. Most folks that have had bariatric surgery are having 100 grams or less, and
right.
you are in a leaning competition. Obviously it's about being as strong as you can be, and you increased your carbs. And I'm so glad that you said that, because I think folks are so afraid of carbs, especially after
I'm
bariatric surgery.
I understand that, because at one point I was there,
Yeah, sure.
but and it's not, the thing is getting 204 grams of carbs in whole foods. That's the kicker right there.
Yeah,
I
it's
can
hard.
eat 200 grams of sugar
Yeah,
easy in one
easy.
setting, probably.
Right. It's not hard. It's not hard to
Right.
do.
So, but getting those through, all your whole foods, all your bulking
Yeah.
foods, like your
Yeah.
rice, your sweet
Yeah.
potatoes, your oatmeal, all of that,
Mm-hmm.
that's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
struggled probably for like the first month,
Mm-hmm.
until my body really got adjusted to that. Because not only that, I was eating 165 grams of protein a day.
There you go. Yeah.
So,
Got to keep your protein high.
my calories were almost 2,000 calories,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
that's a lot of calories for a bariatric patient. And so
Yeah.
that kind of was a big shocker to me, honestly.
Sure.
And it was really hard. And about 6 weeks in, she would, on our check-in, she's like, "Are you waking up hungry yet?" I'm like, "You're crazy. I'm not going to wake up hungry. I'm barely getting this food in as it is."
Right.
And then probably about week 8, I woke up one morning and I was starving. And from
Yeah.
that point on, I was like, I had no problems getting in
Yeah.
what I needed to get in, because
Sure.
it was finally my muscles caught up, and it was
Yeah.
utilizing every single bit of what we were giving it. And by
100%.
morning time, if I didn't have something in my system within the first 30 minutes, I was a hangry mom. Like, don't
Yeah.
talk to me type
Yeah,
thing.
for sure. And, I think what's important that you're saying is yeah, over time, because, when I know when I work with people too, it's like, okay, this is where I'm at with calories. I don't feel very good. And it's like, okay, let's try to increase. It takes time to increase it. It's hard to reach some, significantly higher number. And it sounds like it took you time for your body to really kind of get used to that. And then realize, yeah, I do need this fuel for the amount of working out that I'm doing. And it feels good. That's
If
am I right in hearing that?
100%. It felt amazing. And not
Sure.
only that, I was able to lift more. I felt
Yeah.
stronger in the
Yeah.
gym.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a crazy thing, is
Right.
I didn't realize how strong I would feel. Like I hadn't gotten to that point prior to, so I didn't realize that, hey, this is what your body needs in order
Yeah.
to get stronger, in order to lift heavier. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you and I, before we, have in our chats that we've had before today, you work the night shift as a nurse. So I know that is challenging, especially when sleep is impacted, circadian rhythm and how you feel. Tell us a little bit about how you made all of this work, considering you also work the night shift. Like, tell us a little bit about that. How did you do your nutrition? How did you do your training? Like, what times, that kind of thing?
it was tough. And so I think the biggest part is there's 2 days in that night shift cycle that are the toughest parts. First day back, and like very much like today, I have to work tonight. So I have to
Oh,
stretch my nutrition from the time I wake up to the time
yep.
I go to bed in the morning, which is about 8 a.m.
Sure.
So And that was really difficult at times, because there was, especially after the point I hit where I was starving all the time,
Right.
even with all of those calories, I was starving all the time. So making that work for almost 24 hours on some days was extremely difficult. Then on top of that, your body doesn't like being up like that. It doesn't
Of
like
course.
the stress. It doesn't like the increase in cortisol. It doesn't like any
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
It's okay.
And so that was extremely difficult. It was a big adjustment, and especially training 6 days a week. So
Of
I had
course.
to be extremely diligent about my sleep.
Yeah.
Extremely diligent. I would have to get off work and things would have to be very, very set in my ways,
Structured. Yeah.
and very structured. And I'm not a structured person. I have really bad ADHD, so I am not a
Sure.
structured
Yeah.
person. And
I
so that was a
understand.
big change. And a lot of my time constraints were very pushed. So I had to kind of
Mm-hmm.
step back and be like, okay, how am I going to do this? How am
Yeah.
I going to be successful? So
Sure.
I would sleep from about 8:30 to about 3 p.m. I woke up
Okay.
at 3
Okay.
and I would eat, and then I would go straight to the gym and work out about an hour and a half. My goal was to leave the gym hopefully by 5-ish, so I could come between 5 and 5:15, come home, get ready, get changed, and out the door. Had to be meal prepped. I'm not a meal prepper.
Yeah. Got to do
Like,
it. Yeah.
my meal
It's
prep
hard.
is, let me just get all of my ingredients ready and I throw it together as I go. That's my
Sure.
meal prep. But I had to change the script, and I had to be very much meal prepped and very much set.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side of that, my turnaround transition day is a hard day as well. I would come home and I would sleep, and then I would wake up about 2 or 3 and work on transitioning back, but I would want to go to bed about midnight. So now I
Sure.
have to cram all my nutrition in from 3 p.m. to midnight,
Oh my
along with
gosh.
my
That's
gallon
hard.
of water in my
Right.
tiny tummy. So
Right.
that was extremely difficult. Those days I had a lot of supplementation.
Sure. Sure.
So
And did you feel like on those days that you worked, did you eat like how did you stretch it out? How did you time your meals? What was your pattern?
if I didn't have to make the full 24 hours, like if it was just a regular night at work, I would eat before work.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever I got to work, I would, after my first big rush, which is my nightly med pass, after
Mm-hmm.
that big rush, I would sit down and eat again.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And, it was just, you have to prioritize that
Yeah.
basically. As a nurse, we're really busy.
Of
And
course.
sometimes, you know, it's really hard to find a few minutes to sit down and take a bite, but it was a
Sure.
priority to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would find those 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. And if I had to shovel food, and that's hard to do as a bariatric patient, but
Right.
if I had to shovel food, I would,
Sure.
or eat maybe 5 minutes and then 10, 20 minutes later, eat another 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I would do that every 2 to 3 hours while at work. And people
Yeah.
around me would be like, why are you eating so much? Like, what's going,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to
What are you doing?
explain, but
Yeah.
then they
Of
would
course.
all understand and never say anything. But,
Right.
so I probably ate every 2 to 3 hours at work, maybe
Yeah.
3 to 4. It just kind of depended on my night.
Sure.
So,
And I think that's important to hear because, especially early out, folks are, taught the, 3 meals a day, that's it, and again, you're several years out. It's not like you're 1 year out, but I think what's important to hear is that everyone's pattern is different. What works for you to get to whatever your goals are. At this point, your goal is to hit a certain amount of calories and protein and carbohydrate because you are training for a particular, bodybuilding show. And it sounds like you had meal prepped, so you brought these things to work. What were some of the things, just for folks to hear, what worked for you? What did you bring as a meal to work?
I kind of followed a very simple meal plan. It was
Okay.
single foods, like, just
Yeah.
whatever my meat is, whatever my
Yep.
vegetable is, maybe
Sure.
a good carb starchy source, like,
Yep.
depending on where my macros were and what we were doing. But so
Sure.
I would do like chicken and rice and some
Yeah.
veggies, or
Yep.
some chicken and sweet potatoes and veggies, or I did a lot of overnight oats at first,
Mm-hmm.
with like a half a scoop or protein powder, depending on where I needed to be.
Sure.
Um, it's all very simple, very,
Yeah.
very, very simple
Easy.
foods and easy
Simpler, the
foods.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the simpler and the less processed that you get. and, the
Exactly.
less of the unknown of what is in your food. So
Sure. And so would you make a bunch of chicken breasts like for the week, or, you know what I mean? Prep that protein ahead of time so that it was ready for work?
So at first I did a 6-8 split with my work days. I would work
Okay.
6 days on. So I do Thursday,
Mhm.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then I'd have 8 days off. So
Gotcha.
I would meal prep for those full 6 days. On my days off, I couldn't continue to do that. I have
Right.
like at the end of those 6 days, I had trouble eating that 6 day of food just
Sure.
because it was all the same pretty
Same.
much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on my days off, it looked different. But yes, for my work days, I would meal prep everything. And I worked out of town as well. That was
Oh,
another big
wow.
thing. So I took all my food with me.
Oh
And
my
so I had it
gosh.
all meal prepped at home, and then it all traveled with me about an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
So, the day before I left, I would sit down and kind of figure out what I'm making, figure out how much I needed to make of everything, and then put it all together. So
I love that. And it just, I mean, because it can be done, it
it
can
can
be
be.
done, and when you put your mind to
It's
it, it can be done.
Yeah, I mean, I had a goal, and that was the biggest thing. And I was like, I'm not giving up on myself, and I'm not failing myself. I told myself this is my goal. And in the past, I would just continue to give up and fail myself and not complete what I was doing. But I was
Sure.
determined. And
Yeah.
so if you have a determination, you will find a way to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just give us, just so folks kind of know, what did you like to eat pre-workout or like recovery meal? What were some of your favorites?
I'm a creature of habit, and so egg whites are almost always on my pre-workout meal, almost
Okay.
always. And then I
Yep.
would always find like a low fat, like chicken sausage or something,
Okay.
just to kind of continue to add flavor.
Sure.
Uh, Trader Joe's has a really great sausage links that are really low fat that they
Yeah.
like make in house, I think.
Sure.
Um, and so I would pair like egg whites in that. And then maybe I would always eat some fruit right before I go work
Perfect.
out,
For some
about 15,
carbs.
20
Good.
grams of carbs
Hmm.
and before I went and lifted. And
Yeah.
so that was kind of always my pre-workout meal.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
What made you feel good? Yeah. And then
right.
what about like your recovery meal? What types of things did you like?
My recovery meal, I always drink a post-workout shake. That's kind of where my post-workout dedication came from. And
Sure.
that is comprised of a whey protein isolate
Hmm.
and some carbs.
Perfect.
It's through First Form. It's Formula One and Ignition, and so
Sure.
I pair those two together, and it was 22 grams of carbs and 20 grams of protein, and that was always my post-workout.
There you go.
I wouldn't always eat after that. It was mostly just that, and then
Sure.
I would eat probably an hour or two later.
Yeah.
So
I love to hear that you're doing the protein and the carbohydrate, because I know especially post-workout protein is so important for recovery and for muscle growth, but you still have to replace the carbohydrate that you just used as well. So I'm,
100%,
it's
100%.
it's good that you're doing both. And tell us a little bit about like how did this type of competition, impact your mental state? Like, would you do it again? Did you enjoy it? Like, how did you feel overall when you're looking back?
Um, I There's plans to do it again. We'll put
Yeah.
it
Oh,
that way.
exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
I would definitely do it again. It was a highlight. Like the day of was absolutely amazing. And people are like, you did all of this for about 30 seconds. Yes, I did
Yeah.
all of this for about 30 seconds. I honestly did.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah.
um, but yeah, I absolutely amazing. The whole process itself really taught me so much about myself. It kind of taught me how much grit and grind I have, how much
Yeah.
determination, willpower I have,
Sure.
and really what I'm made up of. Because there were so many days that I did not want to go to the gym. So many days I did not want to show up for myself. But at the end of the day, I did. I did.
That's
I had some fall offs, and I'm not gonna lie. There's
yeah.
about a week halfway through, I was kind of a screw it all mentality. I'm not doing this anymore. I am done. I maybe worked out twice that week and I did not eat right that week. But
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay.
so
How did you kind of what made you get back on track? What made you kind of go back to it?
the support of family and friends. They're like,
Sure.
you're not giving up. Like this is not
Yeah.
what you said to do. This is not where
Yeah.
you are. Um, the support at home is absolutely beyond amazing. My fiance is my number one fan by all
Sure.
means. And, it was like, what are you doing, Ronica? What's up? Like,
Come
is
on.
this really what you want to do? Like, are
Yeah.
you really going to give up with what you're doing?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where it was. Now I felt awful getting back on track after that week. I
It's
didn't
hard.
feel very
Yeah.
good because my nutrition was not in a good place.
Sure.
So, but I mean, about a week later, after all that bloat and inflammation and the nutrition was better,
Yeah.
I felt better and
Felt better
was
about
able
it.
to get
Yeah.
back on track. So,
Sure. I love that. But I think that's important to hear because, like having big goals, it's not all, roses. It's hard. It's a journey that you're on in that respect. And it doesn't all come easy. And I know we talked about this right before we hit record, but I was saying how this type of a competition, I mean, it takes super consistent and diligent focus, like around the clock on your eating pattern and your training. And it's hard. I mean, that's hard mentally to be able to dial in for that long of a period. And I commend you. I think that's fantastic. And especially since you had a set goal you wanted to reach and you were like, dude, I'm doing this, and
right.
you didn't. And like I said, and like you said, things sometimes go off the rails, and that's, you still did the competition. You had a week that didn't go great, and that's okay. I love hearing that.
Well, so I'm a binge eater. I will,
Mm-hmm.
I have a food addiction and I'm a binge eater.
Yeah.
And, at one point through my journey, someone was like, "You lost all this weight. Are you still a food addict? Why do you say that?" I'm like, "Is an alcoholic still an alcoholic after 20 years?" The answer is
Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah.
I consider myself a food addict and I know I have binge eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
But, there was, I think I can count about 5 times where I fell off and had a few days of a binge.
Sure.
Um, and that is very significant, especially when you have to take pictures and check in every week. That
Of
shows, like
course.
it 100% shows.
Yeah.
And this was the most restricted I had ever been on my eating, ever been.
Yeah.
Even through, post weight loss surgery, I wasn't ever as restrictive as
Sure.
what I had to be right then. And
Mm-hmm.
so tucking your tail between your legs and going to your coach and saying, "Look, this is what I did. This is the week I had. And these are
Yeah.
why my pictures look like this. And this is why I have 2 more pounds that I'm reporting to you versus two
Yeah.
pounds lost."
Sure.
And, so, but that taught me a lot. It taught me that, hey, the food that you put in your body fuels you a certain way and it can make you feel one way or the other.
Right.
Um, and I learned a lot about like how food made me feel through the whole process. And I
Yeah.
mean, just being so clean and then introducing something that wasn't so clean. And, it was, it's amazing how food can make you feel, to be quite
Yeah.
honest.
That's so true. That is so true. And what's kind of like, what would be any advice that you might give to someone that might consider competing? Because I know this isn't for everybody, and that's okay. I think it's important for folks to hear, the different types of things you can do, but what's some advice that you might give to someone who's considering maybe going into a competition like this?
Really just really focus on like really figure out like, do you think you can do this? Do you
Yeah.
think you can follow something? Um, and that's really what the advice was to me, figure out if you can follow a plan. And
Yeah.
another thing is the financial aspect of it. Bodybuilding is not cheap, and you got to come in knowing that you're going to probably drop quite a bit of money. I mean, I think I did all my calculations and it was close to $6,000 through the whole process between
Sure.
coaches and food and supplements and competition and stuff like that. It's one thing that I don't feel like it's talked enough, when people set out to do this.
Right.
That's a big thing. And then just making sure you have that support. The support is so, so, so important.
Yeah.
Make sure you have the support in your home, because if you don't, that's like there was certain foods that just wasn't allowed to be bought.
Yeah.
You can't have that food because that is a trigger food for me. And if I see it in the house, it's going to be eaten type of thing,
Right.
you
Sure.
know? And so having that support is huge, absolutely huge. So, just, figuring out if you can stick to something that's so restricted for so long, and whether or not that support is there. And if it's not there, whether or not you're able to go without that support.
Right.
Because there were days through the end of prep that I was so tearful and so emotional and I didn't know why. And there was one day I looked at my fiance, I said, "I just need you to come lay with me and hold me, because I
Yeah.
don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why, but I just need you right now."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I support probably is like the biggest thing. That's what I
Big
keep
thing.
coming back to,
Yeah.
is that support factor.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And what maybe is like one of the biggest lessons that you learned throughout this particular phase of your, post-bariatric journey, this particular little phase of time? What was the biggest lesson learned?
That I can do whatever I set my mind out to do. Like, honestly, I wasn't sure that I was able to, because I never completed anything to that extent. I never stayed on a diet. I always fell off. I always gave myself an excuse. That was a
Yeah.
big one. I'm the queen of excuses. You need an excuse for something, I probably come up with it, or I can help you come up with it.
You're a good friend.
Yes. But not making an excuse, not telling myself, well, I can't do this because, it's, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. I had to get real
Right.
with myself. But just knowing that I can do something, I can complete it, I can accomplish a goal. Like, those are the biggest things that I learned about myself, which helped me in, going forward and moving forward, and telling me that I can do another competition and I
Absolutely.
can continue doing this. So,
Did you ever envision, like, before you had the revision surgery, did you ever envision that you'd be where you are today?
oh God, no, 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 no. I tell everybody, you could have not convinced me 3 years ago that I'd be studying right here. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way, absolutely no way. Like,
Oh,
like, I literally went to Mexico on a hope and a prayer. Like,
yeah.
this is going to either I'm either going to save my life, or I'm going to be dead in 2 or 3 years, or my kids are going to be taking care of me. And
Right.
I was like, they don't, like, that's not what their
Yeah.
role is.
Right. Right. Totally. Oh,
So,
well, can you tell us, where can the audience, where can they reach you? Where can they learn more about you or maybe ask questions?
I am on Instagram.
Awesome.
And I am at VSG_twin boy mom. And I am an open book. I love to share my journey. Each day I kind of pop on after I do a workout, and I dedicate one of my workouts to somebody who follows me, reach out to them and shout them out. And a lot of times it's somebody new to the community, somebody who just
Sure.
had surgery. But I love connecting with my followers and, like, building those relationships. And I
I
am
love
an
it.
open book. Like, if you want to know something, I have no qualms about telling you exactly, what it is.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
well, I appreciate that. No, and thank you so much for your time today, because again, I know in talking to you on Instagram and things like that, I've just been totally watching your journey. And I thought what I loved is that you were just so open and honest about, things that you struggled with, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling today, or this workout didn't feel great. And then also just your, the day of and the day before and the day after, and all the detail that you put into, surrounding that competition. I think that was so interesting because, again, it's something a little bit different, that someone that's had bariatric surgery may not think that they could ever do. And look at you, through all the things that you've been through, you did it. And I'm pumped for you. And I thank you so much for being on today.
well, I just want to tell anybody, like, if you set yourself a goal, don't give up on yourself.
Yeah.
Continue to, like, strive for that goal. You may fall off tracks, but get back on. Pick up the pieces, get back on, and continue to strive. Because if you are determined to do something, you will accomplish it. And it doesn't matter what obstacles get in your way, you will continue to accomplish it, and you'll knock it out of the park.
That's such good advice. Oh, thank you. Well, let's end on that because that's an awesome piece of advice. I love that. But thank you so much again for your time today. I appreciate it, Ronica. You guys go give her a follow because you're going to learn so much, and she's just so fun to watch, and all her lifting stories and just like experience with it and what's worked, what hasn't. You can gain some, information. It's always helpful, and we love finding folks in the community that share their journey. So thank you, Ronica. I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, and thank you for asking me to be on your podcast.
You bet. You bet. Well, you guys, you can watch the full video of this podcast on my YouTube channel, the Active Bariatric Nutrition channel. So make sure to subscribe to it, give it a like. And also, if you don't mind, just share this podcast with maybe one person who you think might find this information helpful and inspirational. We're trying to basically spread the word of the podcast, which is bringing folks in from the community, experts, but people that are living day to day and doing the things that, they're setting their goals for. And I think that's helpful and inspirational. So if you don't mind sharing the podcast with someone, that would be awesome. You can also follow me on social media on my Instagram, which is at Active Bariatric, as well as my Facebook and TikTok pages. And if you'd like to learn more about my one-to-one bariatric nutrition coaching services, please go to my website, which is activebariatricnutrition.com. And you can schedule a free discovery call so we can learn more about each other. So thanks again for tuning in this week. I appreciate all of you guys and your time, and we'll do it again next week. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Ronica.
Bye.